Cheers.
Hey, cheers, dude. This
Thank
is
you
so
for coming
cool.
on. Appreciate
I'm really
it.
excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, yeah, let's address this real quick.
Okay.
So this is a phony mezcal Negroni. So
Yeah.
non-alcoholic because you don't drink and I'm not drinking right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a series of liquor stores in New York City called Boisson, and it's all, well, I say liquor, it's all non-alcoholic product. So they have like the de-alcoholized wine and the non-alcoholic tequilas and everything. And they do these series of like pre-bottled mocktails, slightly carbonated, which is pretty cool. And this is delicious.
This tastes like a Negroni.
It does. I'll be honest, I haven't had the mezcal version yet. I've only had the regular. I'm not getting the mezcal
I'm not, okay.
in this one.
When you looked at it, when you said that, I was like, did I open the wrong one? Because I'm not getting mezcal either.
No.
I'm getting a lot of what would be like the bitter red liqueur, the Campari.
Yeah, if I'm honest,
aspect.
it tastes a lot like the regular, quote, like gin phony Negroni that they offer,
yeah.
which I'm still not mad. This is delicious.
No, not at all. I'm a little bummed. I wish they had ingredients listed because I'd love to know what they're using. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. Okay, it's basically tonic, citric acid, phosphoric acid, and fruit juice. Sugar and
Wild.
carbonated water.
They do at this store. They sell like non-alcoholic
That's
Amaro and non-alcoholic bitter liqueurs, and it's pretty cool. It's worth checking out. They do like tastings and stuff. I haven't gone. I'm not a social person, but
Love that.
it's good to know that this exists.
Yeah. Where is this store? Because when I knew I was having you on today, I went looking.
Okay.
And I couldn't find anything. I checked my local liquor store. I checked the liquor store downtown by my gym. I checked grocery stores.
Yeah.
Because you don't need a liquor
This
license.
neighborhood, there's
technically.
nothing like it.
No.
They're like Beer Run on Broadway has a decent non-alcoholic beer selection every once in
Right.
a while, but they run out of the good stuff. This was I got it on Bleecker. They have another location on the Upper West Side, and then I think there's one in Brooklyn as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the good stuff for non-alcoholic beer? Because I've had I think it's Athletic.
Yeah, that's
I had the IPA that they have at Harlem Public.
yeah.
And that's about it.
They
for non-alcoholic.
Athletic is pretty cool. When you're like, it's called Athletic when like runners finish a race to replenish their carbs. It is kind of a thing to chug a beer.
Yeah.
But then because they had just run such far distances, they would get hammered. So this Athletic Brewing Company came up with a series of really tasty non-alcoholic beers for that process, like for that purpose. And then it took off. And so they started branching out, and they
That's awesome.
like stouts, and they had a really good Oktoberfest this year. So
Nice.
yeah, it's cool to have options besides O'Doul's. These
Yes.
days, and like Heineken 00 has become the O'Doul's
Right.
of today. And it's fine. It just doesn't excite me.
We started carrying Bud Zero.
Yeah, I had that for the first time like last week, I think.
I remember when someone asked for it, he was like, "Is that any good?" I'm like, "It's as good as Budweiser." I
Right.
mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you want. It's Bud Zero.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool that it's kind of blown up in the last 5 years. Like all of the non-alcoholic trending stuff has blown up in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
I used to work at a steakhouse in Midtown, Del Frisco's, and I was just there one day when an old liquor rep that I worked with at another spot, PS 450, like 8 years ago, she came in and it was like, "Hey, how you doing? What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm pushing the non-alcoholic stuff now."
Cool.
And I'm like, "Really?" And she shows me a couple of these botanical, non-alcoholic, infused liquors that she was trying to get us to have behind the bar. And I'm like, "Really? Like, is there a market for that?" And she's like, "There's going to be." And I don't know if she was confident that she was going to create the market,
Right.
or if she was just like ear to the ground. She knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But she was right.
It's like a thing now. Like Gen Z is abstaining, not entirely, but,
Yeah.
but it's having options like to go out and like, even if you do drink, okay, I'll have a cocktail now and then I'll have a mocktail and kind of pace myself.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that option.
That's what I did over Christmas without even really thinking about it much. I was just at a friend's and I did a high noon and I did like 3 LaCroix.
Yeah.
Because I found that, and I talked about this in therapy too, and it's not like a big revelation. If I'm at a party, I just like to have a drink in my hand.
Yeah.
And if I have it in my hand, I'm probably going to be sipping on it.
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it's a soda,
right,
or a beer, or a White Claw, or an old fashioned. And unfortunately, I'll drink them all at the same pace.
right.
So the hard liquor ones will hit me much harder and much faster because I'm drinking them at the same pace that I would a LaCroix.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes down so fast. And it's, so like a couple of years sober, I went to rehab and did that whole shebang. And not everyone who is sober will participate in something like this, right? Because it's kind of a ritual feeling, or it's like triggering, but it's everyone's recovery journey is their own, but that's a real thing. Like getting out of rehab and being in social situations and feeling like I had to have something in my hand to feel like I belonged in a room full of people was like a really big realization and something that I had to deal with,
Yeah. Did you feel like they prepared you for that? Like I akin it to so many things from like school where they teach you so much, but then they don't prepare you for the real world.
I don't know how to do my taxes, but I know about the French Revolution.
Yeah, mitochondria is the
no,
powerhouse of the
they
cell.
don't really prepare. I mean, I was there for 31 days, and I was coming down from like 6 different narcotics and alcohol poisoning, and so no. By the time I got out of there, I barely knew how to stand up. But I mean, there are support systems, and there's ways to figure things out, and I've been really lucky. I've been really fucking lucky, and I'm really grateful.
Yeah, I mean, I never would have suspected that you had any problem being in a bar. Since
you never knew me.
We met working in a bar.
Yeah,
like you're standing behind the bar with 80 different bottles of liquor. Yeah, and you're just like. So does it get busy or
when I realized that as someone who needs to make money and pay bills, that my most realistic option was to stay in the service industry, even after I got sober, I adjusted in my head what alcohol is, and I just view it as product. So pouring wine at a table or making a cocktail, for me, and this is certainly not for everybody, but I feel really lucky to be able to separate that and work in that environment somehow successfully, knocking on wood, and so far.
Yeah. And I won't drop names of where we worked in the past or where we're going to be working in the future, but future spot seems like it's not really going to be like past spot where they're going to be like, hey, let's take a shot at the end of the night. It seems like it's going to be more professional environment.
Yeah, which I appreciate. I'm especially now at 37 years old. Like I'm there to make money. 37.
I thought you were like my age, 31, 32.
Oh, thank you. You're my youthful spirit, my joie de vivre.
Drop the skincare routine. It's youthful spirit. You have to be born with it.
Just drink lots of water and take naps when I need them, Neither of that is true.
Oh, I wish it was though. Yeah. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, no. I'm okay about drinking water in the summer. In the winter,
you don't get as thirsty in the winter.
No.
For some reason, even though all the radiators in New York, do you have radiators or?
I do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Even though they make it super dry and 1,000,000 degrees.
Yeah.
I turned all the radiators off like 3 hours ago and it's still this hot.
It's still toasty, but it's like a nice toasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I tried to hit it the right spot.
Got it.
You talking about needing to be in the service industry.
Yeah.
But you have a show of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to plug it real quick?
I will. I host a horror podcast called RickrTreat Horrorcast, and I launched in October 2022. It is interviews with filmmakers and horror professionals, and then we go over beat by beat the plot of a selected film and give insight and trivia and make fun of it when it's appropriate, and have a good time. And it's been a big journey. It's been a lot of fun. It's led to some really great opportunities. Horror has been my personality for like my entire life, and so now it's exciting to make something of that. I write for Rue Morgue magazine, which is a big horror publication, and it's really cool to see myself becoming part of this community that I've always admired. Like, even, when is this dropping?
March.
Okay, great. So even yesterday, I had my final interview for an upcoming horror trivia game show. I made it to the final round.
Is that the thing you posted about?
It is.
That's super exciting.
Yeah. It is, and so I'll find out end of day tomorrow.
Okay.
I really feel like Ellen Burstyn right now in Requiem for a Dream, where she's like, you got to tell me when I'm going to be on television. Like, that's exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah.
But so, these cool opportunities are showing up with my writing and the podcast. I'm focusing a lot on horror on stage, which is really cool because I'm an actor and a singer and I know so much about horror. So there was a play on Broadway last year called Grey House starring Laurie Metcalf, and it was a horror play, and I got to cover the red carpet. I interviewed Laurie fucking Metcalf. Like, how cool is that? I got to talk to her about being in Scream 2, and she seemed a little like, she just kind of laughed when I brought it up.
Right.
But, wrote the review. They invited me to do a post-show discussion with the audience and the co-lead producer, Tom Kirdahy, who's won like 1 million Tonys. It's just been this really cool opportunity to put my passions together. And now I'm at a point where PR is reaching out to me directly for it. Like The Lost Boys, the musical, is in very early stages. And I already got a PR email like, hey, this is happening. We want you involved. I'm working right now with Teeth, the musical, written by Michael R. Jackson, who won the Pulitzer and the Tony for A Strange Loop. He has now written a musical based on Teeth with Anna K. Jacobs, who wrote Pop, the musical, and that's opening soon. So I'm working with them. Cool shit is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like sound braggy or anything. It's just like, if we consider where I was a couple of years ago, right before I got like, none of this would happen. None of this would be going on. I would be probably still awake from 2 days ago, showing up to your podcast. No, I wouldn't even have made it this far. So that's it. The podcast is a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying the process.
I'm so glad to hear that it's going so well, and that so many people in the industry that you are existing in this show are reaching out to you, and finding it exciting. Do you believe that this will eventually become a thing that is monetized to the point where you can step away from the service industry?
Fuck, I would love that. It is, it's almost impossible to monetize a podcast now. I really wish
I know it.
Oh man, but you've got such a great setup. I don't have any of the video equipment. I'm audio only. It's so difficult to monetize a podcast specifically. But, it's called RickrTreat. I would really love to be able to build like an empire or a brand of, RickrTreat. My YouTube channel has recently taken off, but I don't do the video stuff very often. And that's really what you have to do, So that'll be on the horizon pretty soon. The writing is doing well and kind of, more and more taking off, and I'm working on my first screenplay as well. So
nice.
I'm kind of making opportunities for myself and seeing what's happening with them. And so much has happened in the last just couple of months. I really feel like something's happening this year. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But it's like, you got to keep hustling. You got to keep pushing and coming up with new ideas and doing shit. Like, no one else is doing this horror theater stuff,
Right.
There's no book about the history of horror on stage. Like, Bela Lugosi played Dracula on Broadway before he was in the Universal picture. Let's put together a book that chronicles like horror on stage. There's at least 2 people in the world who would want to read that.
Is that what you're writing?
It's not. It's something that I am considering. I've been offered a serial writing job.
Yeah, I know the word. I forget the word.
Column.
Yes.
I've been offered a column on RueMorgue.com, and I'm calling it Stage Fright. And so that'll be chronicling that. And, maybe that'll turn into a book deal if anyone's listening.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, they'll be listening in March.
Great.
And just take this clip and just repost it every day.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. And I don't know what it was like in the 80s or 90s because I wasn't alive or paying attention, but it feels like horror is growing its fan base more and more these days.
Yeah.
I feel like I see more and more horror themed attractions for events, more horror movies are coming out both around Halloween and just throughout the rest of the year. And I don't know if there was a renaissance or if movies started being really good at being scary again, and that kind of breathed new life into it. But there's definitely an audience there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's a mix of both of the things that you just said. I also think Hollywood has finally realized that they can capitalize on it. Like the horror genre brings in so much money to Hollywood, yet Hollywood still doesn't take it seriously. Like the Oscars snub, the genre every year.
Ooh, real quick, what Oscar snub are you referring to, if any, specifically?
Last year Mia Goth wasn't nominated for Pearl, which is mind-blowing to me.
I didn't see Pearl yet.
So it's a prequel to the film X, both by Ty West. Ty West. See them both. For sure.
In release order or in chronological order?
I say release order.
So
start
X,
with X
and then Pearl.
And then watch Pearl.
And then they're coming out with a third one.
Maxine.
Yes.
Yeah. She's in litigation right now. She's being sued for battery. I guess.
I saw that. She kicked someone.
Kicked
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I worship her, and she is innocent until proven guilty. But no, it's not. It's not a joking matter. I really hope that this person's okay and that this didn't really happen. But
I have a fun, little quick story. I was an extra on set for Scream 4.
Cool.
Yeah. And I made friends. I went back like 4 days, 3 in a row, and then 1 day the following week. So it was like kind of like summer camp where it was the same crew of people every day. And I was buddies with this guy. I think his name was Arnold. And we were doing the hallway scene in the high school, and Emma Roberts just like going to pick something off the back of her shoe, but was standing too close to him, like lifted her foot up real quick and kicked Arnold right in the nuts.
I don't doubt that. She got in some trouble for talking shit about trans people on the set of some Ryan Murphy show. So
oh no,
she's risky. You got to be careful.
All right,
around
then
her.
she intentionally kicked my friend Arnold. And
exactly.
She should never work again. I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah. That's cool to be on the set of a fucking Wes Craven's last movie.
I saw him. I saw him talking to Courtney Cox, who's taller than I thought she was, but still short.
I waited on her once. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very cool experience because it was in Ann Arbor in Michigan. So I was still in college, and it was just a quick drive. They put me in the back of a bunch of different scenes. I can spot myself in the movie.
Nice. I got to keep an eye out for you now.
Yeah,
next time I watch it.
It's so funny. I can spot myself because I know what color shirt I was wearing.
Okay, what color so I can keep an eye?
So in the scene where everyone's that's so stupid. When you're walking up to the school, when the bell rings and everyone's going in, I'm in like a tannish like t-shirt. Okay. And then in the school, I'm in a turquoise polo, like a Hollister turquoise polo.
All right.
And it's so funny because you know how continuity, they're aiming the camera at like Hayden Panettiere right there, and you can see me down there, and she's talking to Emma Roberts, and then they cut to Emma Roberts, and you can also see me down there. So in the world as it exists, I am at both ends of the hallway.
Wow.
Which I think is funny.
Yeah, one of you is not enough.
I'm also in a tan shirt walking around because it's the same day.
Great. All right. That's fun. Just quick costume changes.
Yeah. I loved it. It was some of the most fun I've had on a set. I would do extra work every day if it didn't pay minimum wage.
I know. That's the shitty part. Yeah. It's a long day.
It's a long day. 10, 12, a lot of it is just sitting around. So I understand why they're not paying you $50 an hour to just sit around, but it's not a sustainable job.
No, you do it to get your SAG card, and then you book the real paying gigs.
Yeah.
But all right. So, but what are some of your favorite horror films?
I was so ready for this question.
Okay.
Because I knew I was going to ask you, and I knew I would be asked back. One of my favorites, ever since I saw it, and I think we had this conversation casually one day, Oculus.
Yeah.
I loved Oculus.
Mike Flanagan. That was like his first.
I did not realize it was a Flanagan until, the Flaniverse shows started coming around.
Are you a Flanagan?
I like in the middle.
Yeah. Same.
But I saw an article like 3 months ago saying that the mirror from Oculus is going to make an appearance in a future Mike Flanagan TV show.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, wait, why would it do that? And then it was like Mike Flanagan's Oculus. And then I'm like, oh, that's why it was so good.
Yeah.
That's why I loved it. But that's one of my all-time favorites. The original The Ring is still like one of those. I was scared the first time I saw it in a way that I hadn't been by watching a movie, which I loved. And then if you just go classics like the original Halloween, does Silence of the Lambs count as like a horror?
It does.
Okay,
that's
good.
a whole nother conversation. I'm happy to talk about.
Great. I would love that. But okay, so it does. So that is on my list. Yeah, though I'm comfortable with that list.
Yeah.
I also like the campy, making fun of it a little bit. Cabin in the Woods.
I love Cabin in the Woods.
I loved Cabin in the Woods.
No one walked into that movie and knew what they were about to see. It was just so well guarded, and then the reveal happens, and it's a really cool, fun film.
Did you know they made it and then they shelved it
for like 2 years?
Yeah, and then Chris Hemsworth got cast as Thor, and someone was like, "Wait a minute, don't we have a movie with him?"
Yes.
And then it was like, and they marketed it as with Marvel's Chris Hemsworth.
And it's funny because he was Thor, and then when Cabin in the Woods comes out, and he's not as massively jacked as Thor, so
and he has short hair,
changes sizes.
Yeah. Still, amazing movie though.
Yeah.
Okay, and Hereditary.
Hereditary. That's really controversial.
I want to make sure I don't leave anything.
No, I know. That one's really controversial in the horror world. That's another Oscar snub. Toni Collette in Hereditary.
Yes.
Is mind-blowing. A lot of horror fans are divided with that film. It's this wave of, quote, and I hate this term, but like elevated horror, which to me is just dismissive of the rest of the genre. Thought-provoking horror. Sure. Hereditary is about grief and family, generational trauma. It scared the fucking hell out of me. It is the scariest movie I've ever watched, to the point that I've seen it once and I worship it, and it is among my favorites, and I don't think I ever need to sit through it again. I want it to sit as like top shelf horror in my mind and just let that experience live. It is excellent. Ari Aster is just such an interesting filmmaker to me. He did Midsommar as well. And Beau Was Afraid earlier this year or last year that got.
That's the one I haven't seen yet, but my best friend cast it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, thank them for putting Patti LuPone in that movie because she gives a hell of a performance. She's excellent.
I'll let him know.
Excellent. Yeah, for sure. And great to see her get a role that she can like do her Patti LuPone thing on,
Not yet, because I haven't seen it.
Right. Okay.
But
it's
I'm
like
excited
3.5 hours long. It's like 4 acts of a movie, and the third act could probably be cut, but I'm glad that it wasn't.
Okay.
You're watching Ari Aster's therapy session about his mommy issues for 3.5 hours, and A24 paid for it all. I think it was the most expensive A24 film ever.
Really?
I believe maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can fact check that. My phone is actually.
I think it might be. It's very bizarre and existential and surrealist, and it's just you don't know what the fuck's happening half the time, but it's good. Nathan Lane is super good in it as well. The cast is just fucking great. It's a pretty high recommend.
So it had a budget of $35 million. Apparently, Civil War. Alex Garland's Civil War is the most expensive.
Okay.
But it looks expensive, and that's at $75 million.
Jesus. I'm not familiar with that one. Is it out?
I think it's coming out.
Okay.
Yeah, the trailer just dropped a month ago.
Okay.
Kirsten Dunst, Stephen McKinley, Wagner Moura. That's an interesting name. Mostly because Wagner is a first name.
Right.
That kind of goes.
Your last name.
That kind of goes against everything I believe to be true.
Oh no.
Yeah, elevated horror. That doesn't sound. Yeah, it sounds like it kind of disses every other horror that came before.
So there are so many horror fans who say Hereditary is not scary. And
I was scared.
When you market a film as the scariest movie you've ever seen, you're automatically challenging audiences who are going to walk in and scoff simply so that they can say it didn't scare them. Right. And the Hereditary marketing was videos of people watching it in a theater and their reactions, kind of like with Paranormal Activity. And so you've already set yourself up for people making fun of your movie. Yeah. Right. Add to that it's a complex narrative, and none of the answers are plainly given to you. Right. There are not the typical jump scares that you see. There are jump scares, but they're earned, and and it's just not as so it's not as mainstream approachable to a wide set of audience members, and it's kind of the running. You'll talk about Hereditary on some online platform and you'll just get so much hate for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what I've really learned being, I hate the word like film critic, but someone who reviews films professionally, is that taste is subjective. And just because you do not like a movie does not mean that it is a bad movie. It means that it is not for you, So like if I'm reviewing a film, I try not to put it in black and white terms of like, this movie is good or bad. And that gets really complicated. I think I did recently give a really shitty review to Night Swim, the Blumhouse film that came out in January. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Haven't heard of it. It was in their like Q1 release schedule because they could tell that they had a completely terrible film based on a short film that took off on YouTube like a decade ago, and the short film was fine. There's not enough there to make it into a feature, and the feature that they came up with was bad. So anyway, I shat all over that movie, but
you have another problem with Blumhouse, I believe, with their choices to, I think we talked about this, breathe new life into series by like, we talked about Exorcist and how you didn't need it. You didn't want it.
None of us did. And I didn't see it. I didn't see Exorcist Believer, the new one. I didn't.
Yeah.
I won't.
And then you didn't like what they were doing with Michael Myers and Halloween.
Are we going to go there?
Are we allowed to go there?
Yeah.
Let's go there. You don't like it.
So Halloween 2018 is it's called Halloween in some circles because David Gordon Green directed this movie, is being marketed as a return to form to the original film. And, they got Jamie Lee Curtis back. What?
Yeah.
She was done, and so excited. For me, when that movie was about to come out, I finally understood why Star Wars fans were so excited about the new trilogy, right? And then I watched the movie and I understood why Star Wars fans were so disappointed. The movie ended and I sat in the theater through the credits and I just felt deflated, Listen, it has...
It's shiny. It's got high def cameras. It's got better like sound.
But if you were going to say it's a return to the John Carpenter feel, you are a bold it's a lie. It's a bald-faced lie. There's no tension. Halloween, the original, is my favorite horror film. Has so many long posting shots, and that builds tension. This movie, I started counting. There were like cuts in the camera like every 10 seconds. Yeah. And for me, it felt more like a music video. Also, the level of trauma, as Jamie Lee Curtis kept saying. Have you seen the supercuts of her saying trauma on the press tour?
I have not.
It's humiliating for her. Like,
oh no,
they must have paid her. She got a fat check out of this whole experience, but
she got an Oscar a couple years later.
Especially if you consider that they completely cancel out Halloween 2, which is the reveal that Laurie and Michael are brother and sister. So if that movie never happened, which means that the people that died in that movie never died, then this level of trauma that Laurie has, lived in for the last 40 years is because 3 of her friends were murdered. and that's not to belittle that experience, but also
I saw Halloween. How did they erase Halloween 2?
They actively say that it was just a rumor that Michael was her her brother. Like someone just made that up. So Halloween 2 never took place. It's literally, and then you see in the next two films, Kills and I think it was in Halloween Ends where they show Michael get arrested. Because at the end of the original Halloween, Dr. Loomis looks out over the balcony and Michael's body is gone. And then you hear Michael's breathing over the soundtrack. And you see the camera, the camera shows different places where he has been throughout the night. And you're left with this impression of like the boogeyman is everywhere. Yeah. Right. There's no escaping him. You can't kill the boogeyman. They literally say that. The little kid, Tommy, does. So to see Michael get arrested was just like the biggest fuck you to the ending, one of the best endings in a horror movie of all time. It was such a mishandle and such a disappointment to me. Not to mention the Dr. Sartain stuff where, he's supposed to be the new Dr. Loomis, but then he wants to use Michael and weaponize him and he puts on the mask and it was just bad. And sorry, Danny McBride wrote this script and he made it too comical. And I don't want to be laughing at this specific kind of humor in a Halloween film. Your listeners are going to hate me.
No, they're going to love it. Or they're not going to get it, and then they're going to go watch the movies and be like, yeah.
They'll be on my side.
There's definitely a trend, and like most trends in Hollywood right now, you can kind of blame the comic book movies.
Yeah.
Marvel has done a great job doing what they're doing, but they're action movies that insert humor.
Sure.
And now there are drama movies that are inserting humor.
Yeah.
And Danny McBride, he's a comedian. He's a funny actor.
Right.
But he had the job of writing a horror movie, and he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to insert some humor.
Yeah. It just didn't fit. And it's one thing to insert little Easter eggs that hardcore fans are going to recognize and appreciate, but this new Halloween series just became jerking off, giving people fan service, but it was hollow. It just didn't feel, it felt too intentional and distracting from any kind of story that they were trying to build.
I have a theory that they did it as fan service that non-fans would also appreciate.
Sure.
That's kind of what, and I saw a couple of those things. I was like a fair weather fan of Halloween. I watch it every year, but I don't watch it religiously. And so as I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh, I get that. And then I'm sitting with friends who never watched Halloween and they're like, isn't that from the original?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you got that? You haven't even seen it yet. It's like, yeah. So it's like laid on so thick that it's not even for fans. It's for everyone on the spectrum of liking Halloween.
Halloween is a title that everyone knows. Everyone, if they haven't seen the movie, they know who Michael Myers is. They've heard the music. They think they get the gist. I showed someone the movie this year who had never seen it, and he was blown away. Like, he didn't expect it. He had seen sequels, so he didn't know the original was such a brilliant piece of filmmaking and directing and editing and score. But you bring up Marvel, and I think that has to do, when you brought up before horror having this recent renaissance, in that when we were kids, being a comic book fan was not cool.
No,
you were actively beat up for it. And the same thing kind of went with Halloween. Like, I grew up loving Halloween all year, and I hate to sound gatekeepy, but now it's become so marketable that like they start selling Halloween shit in August.
Yeah.
And it's become like Disney starts selling, doing their Hocus Pocus bullshit in August. And I love Hocus Pocus, but enough is enough. I don't need a third movie.
I enjoyed 2.
I did once.
It was
I never
fun.
need to watch it again.
I'll watch Hocus Pocus 1 every year.
Sure.
I might watch 2 again when I have kids.
Yeah. I don't need to feel sorry for the villains, and that's what Disney keeps doing, is making these sequels and remakes where they're making us sympathize for these villains. And enough was enough for me with Cruella, because this bitch skins puppies.
Yeah,
I don't want to like her. Just
I don't need to empathize.
Let a villain be evil.
Yeah,
like Gregory Maguire wrote Wicked 30 whatever years ago, and now everybody thinks that they need to like. Just let Ursula be mean. I'm glad in this new live action that they let Ursula remain evil and didn't make me want to like her, because she's a monster.
There's a theory that I've had with Hollywood for a very long time. and I have a lot of examples to back it up, they won't let the lead be bad.
Sure.
And so I think I first realized it with the original Suicide Squad, the one with Will Smith.
I didn't see it.
It's okay. It's you understand the idea.
Yeah.
It's a group of convicts that are going in, they're expendable.
Yeah.
And they're going in to do the job that the superheroes can't do.
Right.
Ask me how many people they killed.
Oh, God.
They're bad guys. One of them is Deadshot. One of them never misses a shot. That's his shtick.
None.
0.
That's fucking...
They killed 0 people. They did. Ask me how many crimes they committed.
Oh, none.
0. They did 0 bad things. They weren't bad guys.
Yeah.
And then you've got Will Smith in a bar. He's saying, we're the bad guys, remember?
Yeah.
And it's like, are you?
Are you?
Are you? Because you're about to go save the world.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's the same thing. It's mostly comic book movies because I think that they're so big that the studios are unwilling to take chances. The Rock just played Black Adam.
Right.
Black Adam's a bad guy.
Okay.
He's supposed to go against Superman.
Wow.
He's supposed to be the antithesis of Superman with all the same strength and fighting ability.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. He was saving
That's
people.
annoying.
He was in the opening scene where they discover him, he kills a few people. Turns out those were bad guys. So he didn't do anything bad. Again, he turned himself in.
No.
And he gave up his powers and let them put him in prison.
I didn't grow up with comic books. I know, I grew up with the basics of superheroes, and I liked like the Batman movies and the Joel Schumacher of it all, and the ridiculous over the top bat nipples and cod pieces on Robin.
Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face is a brilliant performance.
He hated making that movie.
He hated making it. Yeah.
Hated working with Jim Carrey because Jim was like improvising and being wacky and ridiculous, and Tommy's like a more rehearsed actor.
Yeah.
And they were just very different.
But we got great performances out of both of them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's all of this new wave of comic book movies and the Star Wars universe. I can't keep up. I don't know who has time to watch every episode of every TV show on Disney Plus right now and go see the movies. It's just and from my understanding, even the fans of these empires are now not happy with what's happening. It's oversaturated and
I'm tired.
It's tired. I think the last one that I saw was the most recent Doctor Strange, and that was really about Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
That's all it was. But even that, they gave her such an incredible, sad, bittersweet ending in WandaVision, and then they made her a bad guy? Fuck off.
So,
she was a bad guy originally, right?
She was kidnapped as a child, and she was raised with like human experimentation.
Okay.
And then, so the bad guys were raising her, they were experimenting on her, and they weaponized her. So not really her fault.
No.
But she was being used by the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then the Avengers like rescue her, and they're like, no, like we're not the bad guys. Like this is the guy you're working for, and he wants to wipe out mankind. And she's like, oh shit. And then she goes back to being bad.
Right. And listen, watching Elizabeth Olsen chew this scenery and just give this incredible performance in that movie was fun.
Yes.
And it was like they're scary. There were callbacks to like Evil Dead, and there were callbacks to Carrie, and it was it was fun.
Sam
to see
Raimi
them
directed.
Right. Yeah. So it was fun to see them do that, but I think I'm just no longer interested.
You are movies. In the majority.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had, specifically with Marvel, because Disney kind of fumbled the bag with Star Wars.
Yeah.
They broke our trust first.
Right.
Like Marvel did Iron Man, and no one expected it to be good.
Right.
And then everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what comic book movies are going to look like now.
Yeah.
You've got Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. No one knew who Iron Man was.
No,
except for diehard comic book fans. And now everyone's like, oh yeah, that's amazing. With Star Wars, they did the opposite. We knew Star Wars. We loved Star Wars. We had movies. and we had actors that were going to come back and play these roles again. Harrison Ford appeared at the trailer for The Force Awakens at the very end, and everyone freaked out.
It was a cool moment.
So they had our trust before the movie even premiered, and they broke it.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the first one. Everyone was upset because the first one was basically just a remake of A New Hope.
Sure.
Like almost the exact same story.
Yeah.
But
I did like the first one.
I did like, well, I liked A New Hope too.
Right.
It's a good story, no matter how many times you tell it. But
I thought they gave us a good hero in Rey. Right. She was someone that I could really root for.
I like Rey. I like Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
I have no problem with her or how she played it.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the writing. How she became so powerful so quickly.
Sure.
How she did almost no training. How at the end of Force Awakens, she's able to hold her own in a lightsaber battle with a guy who Luke Skywalker trained from very young age, and he's now evil, which means he's not just trained, he's also going for kill shots.
Right. Yeah.
And she's just like, no, I got this. I picked this up yesterday.
Yeah. I also which one was the third one? The final one?
Rise of Skywalker.
When she and Kylo Ren kissed at the end, I was so furious. Because maybe I missed it, but I don't see why they needed to kiss.
It was unearned.
Completely unearned.
It was unearned.
Like what? There was no romance or sexual tension between them for 3 whole movies.
Yeah.
And suddenly, first off, I mean, they're not related, but they're kind of part of in the same clan. You know, it just felt it felt more like a brother-sister relationship to me. And then suddenly their tongues are in each other's mouths. And I'm just, I was very thrown by it, and it felt cheap. And it felt like, oh, we've got, you know, a beautiful woman as a heroine. She has to kiss somebody at some point. And it I don't know, it pissed me off.
It pissed everyone off.
Good.
It was unearned. It was cheap. The whole movie was bad because it starts with a scene. You know, they all start in space, and then it does the space scene, and then everyone lands, and then you've got Oscar Isaac who comes in.
Oh,
and he's
so
like,
hot in that movie, though. Go on. So sorry.
When he comes in, and he's just like, so somehow Palpatine returned. And that's when there was a collective groan.
Yeah.
From everyone in every theater.
I was going to bring that up. We don't know how he returned, right? He's just there again?
I mean, they sort of explain he cloned himself. So they took the story out of the comics. In the comics that people wrote after Return of the Jedi came out, and like expanded universe novels and whatnot, there's a whole story about when Vader throws Palpatine down that shaft and his body basically disintegrates. His soul lives on and flies or floats or appears in an offline vat of clones that Palpatine had created of himself. And so there's a whole storyline of him making his way to a clone body, inhabiting it. But it's weird. It's not like they did it in the movie. It's like a young Palpatine. So like a young 40-year-old. Think what Ian McDiarmid looked like in the 80s.
So like what he looked like in the prequels then before
like
Samuel L. Jackson
20 years
aged
younger.
him. Okay.
Yeah, but like unscarred, undamaged.
Wow.
Because like you clone yourself, the clone DNA is not going to be like, oh, you got burns on your skin.
No, of course. Right.
And so the whole story keeps going, and he finds Luke and takes Luke on as an apprentice because Luke has this moment of, I redeemed my father. I brought him back to the light side. We destroyed evil. But no, we didn't. Evil's right here.
Yeah.
Evil is insurmountable. And so there's a whole Luke as a Sith storyline, and he ends up like not staying a Sith. He like brings himself back into the light, but it's an idea that's existed, but they did it so poorly because they never planned it out in the original model of what the 3 movies were going to look like.
Right.
Palpatine was never part of the equation until Colin Trevorrow's Last Jedi did not do well.
Wow.
Then they were like, we need to shift gears. That movie's out. That movie's done. Laura Dern sacrifices herself for almost no reason. And
that movie didn't deserve her.
No, it did not. She was great in it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the writing, but she was great in it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, what do? We have one more movie. Everyone knows that this is a trilogy. And they were like, what if we just brought back Palpatine?
Yeah.
And it was
if we're going to go back to making villains likable, like Kylo Ren killed Han Solo.
Yeah.
That is a despicable thing to do. And then by the end, we're supposed to feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop doing that.
We didn't need it.
No.
We already had a Sith that we liked because we all watched Anakin grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of people who are upset about Revenge of the Sith making it so fast that he falls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people are so happy that we got the Clone Wars, the animated show.
Yeah.
Because it shows moments where he's like in the Clone Wars and he's having a darker moment, like where he's got like someone by a force grip on the throat and Obi-Wan's like, Anakin, release him. And he just like, he doesn't for like an extra second. He's like, Anakin. He's like,
I'm really glad. What is the actor's name?
Hayden Christensen.
I'm glad that he's being allowed to come back.
Yeah.
Because he got so much shit for that performance. And you're an actor. Mm-hmm. They do a million takes.
Yeah.
And so him burning in the lava and that ridiculous, and then his scream no at the end. It's just, he was a strong actor through the entire thing. And then that movement completely ruined his career. But I don't think it was his fault. And now he gets to come back. He was in the Obi-Wan show and was, good to see him. And now I guess he's on Ahsoka.
He's great in Ahsoka.
It's rumored that he'll be nominated for something, a Golden Globe or something.
He's phenomenal. Can I gush over Hayden Christensen
Please
for a minute?
do, because he deserves it.
So, firstly, for the movies, George Lucas went on in an interview and he's like, I don't know why people rejected him as Anakin. And they were like, what did you think of his performance? And George went on and he's like, he did exactly what I asked him to do.
Yeah.
He gave me the exact Anakin that I had in my head. I wouldn't change a single thing.
Yeah.
And so it's George Lucas's movie. It's not Hayden Christensen's movie.
No.
So Hayden either needed to give George what he wanted or get fired.
Right.
So he did that. There are also subtle things that a lot of people don't know that are kind of brilliant in his performance. For example, when he rescues Palpatine from Mace Windu, sends Mace Windu out, or Palpatine sends Mace Windu out the window, and he kneels and becomes officially Darth Vader and becomes his apprentice. He changes the way that he speaks and matches the cadence that James Earl Jones did as Darth Vader in the later movies. So his whole speech pattern changed.
Yeah.
I never noticed that until later on.
I mean, I never had it. It's been so long anyway.
Yeah. So, like, he did a lot of small things that are kind of brilliant. For Ahsoka, he kind of had this new opportunity to come back and be young, like, Clone Wars Anakin.
Okay.
Who he didn't really get to shape that character that much, but it was already created by Dave Filoni, and I believe it's Matt Lanter that plays animated Anakin in the Clone Wars.
Okay.
But he's like charismatic, hotshot, best pilot in the universe, Anakin. And so he came back and he didn't like steal anything from the show, but he kind of like honored it and matched like the energy while still being himself.
Yeah.
And it's one episode and there's like flashback Force ghost sequences. So Ahsoka is like going back to these events, but communicating with actual Anakin Force Ghost.
Okay.
So there are new moments for her set in past events, and he's brilliant.
That's cool.
It's so good.
I've heard good things about the show. I never watched Clone Wars, so I'm not familiar with the character.
They did it in a way where you can watch it as a standalone.
Right.
You'd be better informed by watching Clone Wars, but
sure. I love Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
I waited on her and her family on Mother's Day last year, and they were like the nicest fucking people. Like, she and I had a whole conversation about how much we love Paula Abdul, and then she tipped way too much money, and it was just a lovely experience. It was, her family was sitting there waiting for her and her mom to show up, and they sat for like 2 hours, and I was like,
oh, wow.
What are you doing in my section? Like, order something. And then Ro shows up, and I was just like, oh my God, stay as long as you want. Like,
yeah.
It was, she's great in everything. She's always great.
Yeah, she's been around for a long time.
Oh yeah,
like
she was in Kids, the movie about young hooligans in New York City. Have you ever seen it? It's very upsetting.
No, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Is it Harmony is it the same filmmaker who made Gummo? I want to say Harmony DeVries. Is that his name? I don't know. Anyway.
None of that sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, she was a wee lass when she made that. It's a very upsetting film.
My first Rosario Dawson exposure, I think, was Men in Black 2.
I didn't know she's in that.
Have you seen Men in Black 2?
Oh, yeah.
What? Yeah. She's the main, like, female lead.
Cool. I haven't seen it since she was in Josie and the Pussycats.
She was.
Yeah, and was she in Crossroads with Britney Spears? Am I crazy?
That one, I don't think so.
I think she might be. Which is coming to streaming for the first time ever pretty soon. I just found out.
Crossroads. That was Zoe Saldana.
Oh no, now I'm racist. Can we cut this part?
No, we're live streaming.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Oh, Dan Aykroyd played Pete Wagner. A lot of Wagners. We're looking up a lot of Wagners today.
Look at that.
Yeah. Are you ready for another mocktail?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.